I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms.
I think it is important as parents to teach our children about the heroic women leaders who have shined the light, the guiding light toward helping change our lives, change society, and make things better. I'm remembering a woman by the name of Reverend Evangelist Connie Hooks of the AME Church in Chicago. And she was a phenomenal woman. Her preaching was sometimes just surpassing even the pastors. She taught us catechism. She taught us the fundamental things we needed to know about God, God the Father, God the Holy Spirit, and Jesus the Son. She was just an incredible woman. I'm also thinking of Mrs. Gwendolyn Hargrave, my fourth grade teacher. She was phenomenal in the fact that she was very innovative in teaching us kids so many important things about life. I remember the day that she taught us how to make breakfast. Very simple implements, but everybody brought something, taught us how to make oatmeal and the side dishes that went with it. And everyone in the whole school was talking about it. But not only that, she took kids on a trip to Washington, to New York, and to Colorado. She did things that elevated our lives as young Black school children in the Chicago public school system. I'm also remembering Georgia Corley, another innovative teacher at John D. Shoup School, who was an amazing woman in terms of teaching us, leading Glee Club, but not just helping us learn how to sing, but helping us make decisions for our lives to make many children who would have not thought about going to college to really think about how the work they were doing in middle school and pre-high school was going to change their lives. Now, there are many women in our lives who have made major changes, and these are people that touch me personally. And I'm sure you can think of some too. But I will run down a list of names that you may know about, but not enough. So look them up. We have Sojourner Truth, who was a warrior type woman in terms of helping move forward the civil rights movement. There was Harriet Tubman, and we all know about her. There was Susan B. Anthony, who was a Quaker with a long history of social justice and anti-slavery activism. There was Amy Carmichael, who worked in Japan, who was a leading woman who led many to Christ and out of the slavery that these people were encompassed with. There was Corrie ten Boom, who hid Jews and served time in a prison camp because of her involvement with helping Jews during the Nazi regime. And then when she was released by an accident, I might say, because everyone her age was exterminated, she went on to travel all over the world telling her fantastic story and telling everyone about Jesus. Mother Teresa was another woman that, of course, you know about with her phenomenal ministry to the poor, where she helped the least of these. There was Katherine G. Johnson, a Presbyterian woman who was also a long-time amazing figure in the civil rights movement and helping with the movement in aerial space. Condoleezza Rice, who was, after graduating from the University of Denver and becoming a professor of political science, was also, upon their election, she was named the head of the National Security Council, the first woman to hold this position, and many others. There's so many women who have changed the world in the modern times and in the old times. Sisters, who are some women who have influenced you?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, there's so many women who have done so many things, but you're talking about, his history, and I'm thinking of, and I was looking for her name and I can't find her name right now, the woman who was responsible for the reason why we have FaceTime and Zoom. Uh
Yes.
and which is the most modern thing. We're talking
Hmm.
about
Hmm.
the Consumer Protections Act, which was formed by my senator Elizabeth Warren. We have our first female vice president and Kamala Harris, and we have our first Black female Supreme Court judge
That's it.
in Ketanji Brown Jackson. So there are so many women who are doing things that it's kind of ridiculous. The way we always say, Black history is everyone's history. Women's history is also everyone's history because, Barbara, right before the show, you made a joke saying, "Well, what if there were no women?" Well, sorry, there's no one. There's no one because
People.
you know, Adam, you're by yourself, and the human life does not exist, so there's so many contributions. I hesitate for some of them because some of them were also racist, like Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, who fought for the women's vote, but they also did not fight for the Black women's vote, which didn't really come around to like 1965.
That's right.
So we have to remember that when we celebrate women, that women don't always celebrate each other. And I've talked about this even in my class, is that women don't always celebrate each other. And we have to remember that we are all women born, one way or the other. We're all women born. So we have to celebrate anti-racism, misogynoir, which is, misogyny against Black women, um, transphobia, LGBTQ. We have to celebrate all women. We have to, when we're celebrating all people, we have to celebrate all people who come and who have made contributions, not just because they're women, but because we're all human and that we're all doing things and we're all contributing. And even though this is a patriarchal society, the patriarchal didn't do a whole lot of stuff. And it wouldn't have been able to do a whole lot of stuff without women.
Yep, that is true.
Well, you do know that they say behind every strong man is a powerful woman.
Usually doing all the work.
Well, these days I think men are changing at the saying, beside every great man is a great woman. And I appreciate our president, Barack Obama, for acknowledging the strength of his wife and, of course,
and his mother-in-law.
And his mother-in-law. And, even in his books, the women in his life that were strong women, his grandmother, his mother, his mother that really pushed him academically, and his grandmother that, a lot of times she was the financial strength in the family. So I think that at some point we'll evolve, just like you say with Black history, where we don't have to have a special day to acknowledge all the contributions. Is like, the regular people do stuff every other day, and then we'll give you 30 days to mention some of y'all's little stuff.
Yeah.
Eventually we will not be doing
But it's only because they've been skipped. I think it's going to be that way for a long time, because I think once you try to do the big melting pot thing of everybody, everything, then a person's specialness is not rewarded or seen in the light that it should be elevated to.
Yeah, especially depending on who's doing the honoring, because people tend to honor their own people, however they perceive themselves to be. And so that means that if other people are doing the honoring, then they can just easily overlook you. Like we've been overlooked for centuries. But one thing that I looked at, even with I think a few days ago was the International Women's Day and all of that.
Yeah.
And then First Lady Dr. Jill Biden, she hosted the ceremonies of the International Women of Courage Awards, which I found interesting. There are a lot of situations in countries, not, well, America too, but a lot of situations in countries where there's a real resistance to women rising, a real fear of women being empowered to be equal partners in society in every aspect. And so those women who have fought and been triumphant in changing things were honored at the White House. And I thought it was an interesting ceremony. I thought that a lot of the women who were recognized have really done some phenomenal things. And one woman was tortured, and I think of things like that. And of course, there are no marks or bruises on her now. She's looking beautiful and everything. But you don't know what that means when you hear someone was tortured after they refused to do something that the government or the military demanded. And there are things that women are facing that take tremendous courage. So even to stand up and speak in some societies with the fear of being ostracized or even imprisoned, it takes a lot. So like some of the women you mentioned in history, Barbara, such as my favorite, Sojourner Truth, someone who I've enjoyed portraying.
Yeah. You do her very well.
and we have to always keep looking at our sisters.
She is now. But yeah.
we have to keep looking at our sisters in Iran who are, by the simple, what we would consider a very minor resistance of taking off their hijabs, have been subject to murder because, right now they're in a place where they don't want them to go to school. There is recently, there's always been, resistance since the religious groups taken over and, decided that women don't deserve to be doctors. And as they're as doctors and of course, contributing members of society, they don't deserve to be educated. And as we can look, and if we're paying attention, and we all should be paying attention, because women being hurt are really canaries in the coal mine for all of us, for all over the world. And the fact that their economy is collapsing because they would rather women stay home and be uneducated than have the jobs that need to be done shows you the short-sightedness of marginalizing half of your population. And so when we always have to keep watching and supporting our sisters in Iran and in Afghanistan who are fighting the patriarchy, woman, life, freedom, because if we don't pay attention, and we have to pay attention to everyone. As Black women, we always feel like we have the weight of the world on our shoulders, but all women have the weight of the world on their shoulders, and we have to be intersectional with our support for each other. With our,
you mentioned that about women supporting each other and sometimes not supporting each other.
Yes.
When you see situations, because one thing I believe, there are no victims in this world. Everybody creates their own reality, even if they choose to point fingers at someone else. But what is that saying? Nobody can ride your back unless it's bent. And I'm not trying to blame people who are oppressed, but when oppression has become part of the culture, that means women have accepted it and taught it to their sons and daughters. And that's what we have to take responsibility for as we change things. Women have to stop acquiescing to it and even
promoting
it, because in all these areas of life, I mean, there are nations where women still do female circumcision and they believe, well, this is going to keep my daughters from being sexually active before their time and all that. It's women who sometimes will be the most attacking of women who even
proponents of that kind of behavior.
Yes, even less so remember, 53% of white women voted for a serial rapist who said on campus that, or on camera that, about assaulting women, because if you're a star, you're allowed to do that, and 53% of women voted against their own interests because they were upholding the white male patriarchy, while a white woman who was more qualified than just about anybody to hold the office of president, they didn't like her. So they didn't even come out for their own. I like to think that more Black women would be more supportive. In fact, that they were more supportive of Hillary Clinton. But the thing is that a lot of women don't like each other. And I've said that, talked about that in my class recently. I says, women don't like each other.
When women
don't like each other,
that is just old-fashioned jealousy. I brought that up in an earlier show where I said women are mean to each other in the workplace. That is a real thing. That jealousy, that not seeing that you have a common goal toward making things better for yourselves together. It's turned into the me thing, and I'm going to be the only one thing.
Yeah, when you don't value yourself, then you cannot value a reflection of yourself. And that's what we see when we see women putting down other women. The first one to criticize a woman, she's doing something great. The first thing we want to talk about is, oh, her hair is all messed up. What does that got to do with her policies and her intelligence? But we're the first ones that tear it down if we don't think her
hair wasn't even messed up.
Well, you know what? I got on one of my friends on Facebook who was talking about, I believe it was Simone Biles. I said, talked about her hair.
Oh man, there was a lot of.
I'll tell you, I said, you know what? I call foul on that. This is the greatest athlete in the world, and you're worrying about her hair not being messed up. And that is the kind of things that when we celebrate phenomenal women like the Gabby Douglases, like the Simone Biles, like all of our other athletes, and I'm gonna tell you, my daughter was a gymnast for 8 years, and gymnastics is hard. In fact, she had a sweatshirt that said, if gymnastics was easy, they would call it football. So, and so to know that these people are doing things with their bodies that mere humans cannot do, and for us to reduce it, this was a Black woman too.
Those are the ones who did it.
Those are right. Shows that we need to stop looking at the surface of what we look like and what we are on the inside.
The character,
the character, the drive, the ambition, and celebrate these phenomenal women. If Katherine Johnson hadn't been as smart as she was, ain't nobody going to space.
That's true.
Nobody going
to
space.
That's right. That was a Black
or going and not coming back.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that she was trusted because she was so smart. So we need to celebrate that. Nobody needs to say, yeah, but her hair was messed up. or she wasn't, or that dress didn't fit.
Yeah,
or whatever.
That is so
more makeup.
That is so high school.
But that's where a lot of women are mentally. They're stuck there. It's the pettiness that we learn, and some of us just never outgrow it. Now, I don't know if you all. It's about 5 minutes of Dr. Jill Biden's presentation when she spoke, when she was about to present the Women of Courage Awards at the White House. I was very impressed. Yeah, because I didn't realize I've really gotten cynical with anybody connected with politics, but I really felt like it came from her heart and the things that she said. And I really like what she said about, we need more men to stand by us. And I like what she said about women, the courage. Is it okay if we listen to just a few minutes of it?
Can we hear it? We'll be able to hear it.
We should be able to.
Thank you.
Can you hear it? Okay.
And thank you, Secretary Blinken. Tony, when Joe selected you to be Secretary of State, he knew that we had much to do abroad. from putting diplomacy at the center of foreign policy to rebuilding our global partnerships. And with every challenge we faced, you have ensured that we're better able to deliver for the American people because we have our allies by our side. Your integrity and statesmanship have helped us rally countries to stand with Ukraine against Russia's war of aggression, strengthen our ability to respond to future health emergencies, and confront the climate crisis. Thank you for all that you do. As the Secretary said, we are joined by leaders from around our country and across the globe. So to all of the members of the diplomatic corps here, thank you for joining us today. And as the Secretary said, the family of the incomparable Secretary Albright is with us, and I'm going to ask you to stand.
Secretary Albright, Madeleine Albright, was another groundbreaking.
And they all came to help us carry on her legacy. And we have our Gender Policy Council, the first of its kind, and other leaders from across our administration. This audience is a testament to our national commitment to gender equality around the globe and the powerful influence of the people we honor today, women of courage. Right here in the East Wing, we will tell their stories of fearlessness, resilience, and hope. We will hear from them in their own words. And there are people outside of this room who need to hear their stories too. The girls who will inherit this world. The future engineer who loves exploring, who sees magic in mechanics and technologies that connect us to each other, but is told, there's no place for you in the classroom. The future president or prime minister who is told that her voice is too loud or too bossy or too feminine, whatever that means. The child who lives in fear. The star who is told to hide her light. The girl who feels the smallness of the world closing in, afraid that her dreams are just too big to carry alone. Again and again and again, they wake up to find a world made for someone else and watch their brothers and their fathers and their uncles and their neighbors rise and grow while they are told to shrink, told that they're not good enough, not strong enough, not worthy of the lives that they dream about. But today, we're here to tell girls everywhere the truth that they need to hear. Yes, you matter. Yes, you can make a difference. And that's why we wanted to bring the leaders we're honoring today and the stories that they share to the biggest stage we could, the White House. And Tony, thank you for helping us do that. Girls everywhere need to know that there are women fighting for them and winning, opening doors, transforming schools and communities and governments, building a better world for all of us. And we're also here to say to their brothers and their fathers and their husbands and their friends, as much as we need women who are willing to speak up, we need more men who are willing to listen and act. We need more men to hold each other accountable when their sisters are being hurt or left behind. We need more men who nurture families, who feed and teach and mentor, who build safer communities. We need more men who know that caring, collaboration, and kindness are signs of strength, not weakness. Men, we need you to support the women who are fighting for their rights and to lift up those who have been silenced.
So yeah, I thought that her presentation was sincere, especially when she said about, you know, we need men to speak up and lift up those
Well,
who've been silenced.
absolutely. And there's a lot of that happens with especially like I said, in Iran and other places where they're realizing that, you know, the men also have to stand up with their sisters and their daughters and their wives, and they
Yeah.
have to be the guiding force as part of this, because you cannot keep expecting the oppressed to do all the work
Right,
against the oppressor.
right, right.
You know,
Yeah,
and remember, if you're not part of the solution,
you're
you're
part
part
of
of the
the problem.
problem.
Yeah, they did. They gave a special award to the women of Iran. Matter of fact, they had Condoleezza Rice present the award, which, you know, that was a great symbolic gesture as well. And she was very honored to do that, because it is time for women in these areas where oppression has become a part of the culture, an accepted part of the culture, woven into the religion, and even uh, carried on from mother to child for
Yes.
generations. It's time for that to stop. So that means people who are standing up, they need to be supported, and women around the world need to stand with them. And like she said, hold the men accountable, you know, that are allowing it and not saying anything when they see these atrocities.
And we here who are in the West, we have that opportunity to step in, because as we become more and more of a global society, we become made aware of the needs of others. And sometimes we might need to sacrifice some of our own comfort, come out of our own comfort zone in order to help others in other areas who don't even have a fraction of the rights that we have here.
Yes, and you have to remember that the patriarchy, caste systems, all of these things hurt everyone, including the people who believe that they are at the top. Even the white male who believes he's got it all, you know, and we should all read the book Mediocre, because that explains a whole lot, or the book Caste, which also explains a lot. But the
Very
thing
well
is
written.
that also hurts them. You know,
Yes.
you find more men who have suicidal ideations and all of these things. And why is there so much anger? Because people feel like they've been entitled to something. They've been sold a bill of goods. You're supposed to get everything, even at the expense of everyone else, and that hurts all of us. That hurts all of society.
Right. Everybody has the responsibility to discover that there is no one that is greater than themselves.
Right.
And then once you have discovered that, then you have a responsibility to live that way and not allow other people's opinions or fears to dim your light. So there are no victims. We have to take responsibility for what we allow individually and collectively to happen in our society. And like you say, if anybody is oppressed, it hurts everybody.
Yes.
And anybody who's weakened weakens everybody. And when we know that and we live like that, and our laws and our policies reflect that, then things will change. But that means also helping people get over their fears, because there are some real things that happen when you're in the process of overcoming and overturning an oppressive society. The people who've been in charge and been at the top, they don't want to see the change, and sometimes they can get ugly. So that's what the media has to expose it, so that everybody can see it. And then when you can't hide, you have to make a change.
So
Yeah.
that's all the time we've got.
That's all the time we've got. And we invite you to continue to watch and listen. Join us every Sunday, 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern, and like and share us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel, 3 Black Moms. Until next week, I'm Naima.
I'm Cheryl.
I'm Barbara. We are 3 Black Moms. Hi, I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're 3 Black Moms.